Good morning, everybody, and on this wonderful Sunday, welcome to the Podolsky Method podcast. I'm your host and creator, Coach Ilya, and I'm a CPA. I'm a level 4 certified hockey coach and a lead hockey instructor for the Junior Rangers, and I run a skate sharpening shop called Sharp Skate New York. I'd like to introduce our sponsors before we jump into the show. Print Only with Us, a full printing shop in New York City and Florida. Please check them out. Don't forget Wargate Hockey for your mouth protection with your favorite visor if you want to keep those beautiful teeth. And definitely check out our Junior Rangers programs at youth hockey with the Junior Rangers. Amazing programs right now. They're running a lot of camps and ball hockey. And in September, we're coming back with learn to plays and try hockey and all that good stuff. And today I have a very special guest, Stephane Matteau, and he doesn't need much of an introduction, but I'll do it anyway. He's obviously an NHL player who had over 742 penalty minutes, 144 goals, 172 assists, for 316 total points in 848 games, and obviously Stanley Cup champion. And he actually also acted as an assistant coach. And Stefan, is that right? Am I getting all these stats correct?
Well, I was surprised to see the penalty minutes. I thought I was and runner up for the Lady Bing a few times, but they no, that's about right. That's a 13-year career, and I coached a few years in the Quebec Major Hockey League as an assistant coach. But they that sums it up for my career for the stats. Yeah, 13 years, 850 games. Very proud of it. Yes.
Amazing. So before I start asking you all these questions about everything and anything, I gotta ask you the one question that everybody probably asks you: what was it like scoring that goal in Game Seven? To get the Rangers into the Stanley Cup Finals.
That was the craziest time in my life as a professional, as a human being. It was just the best time. It was such an impact that we celebrate our 28th anniversary 2 days ago. That was the date, May 27th. So it's something that changed my life. I didn't know at the time, but as a professional athlete, you dream about those moments. You dream about scoring. You visualize it when you're a kid. You play for the You're playing for the Stanley Cup Finals, the winning goal, and you put a trash can on the side of the road, and the next goal wins the Stanley Cup. So you visualize it, but when that happens for real, it's surreal. So I'm very blessed. No one can take that moment away from me, and not a better winning it and scoring it at Madison Square Garden was even more special. So it's been 28 years. It's been a good run, and I'm still riding the good wave. So it's been a very special moment.
It's unbelievable. I mean, as fans, I mean, I came to the United States from Moscow, from Russia in 1994, and so when I came here, obviously that was the year that everything happened, and it was like what's you kind of trying to figure out what's going on. This parade in the city, like what's happening. So
Yeah.
definitely remember that moment. But you also scored an overtime winning goal in Game Three as well, right? Of that
Well,
series.
no one talks about that goal, and as a professional athlete, that was the biggest goal at the time. I didn't know I was going to score a few days later, but I was happy for just that one moment, and just to help the New York Rangers win the game and lead the series at the time 2-1. And I was very very happy with that moment. Not too many people talks about that moment, though. Though it's another special moment in my career. Um, Scoring two in the same series, it's surreal. And but I've been blessed in that series. So I scored three goals overall. I scored the very next night in Game Four on the Mark Messier beautiful pass from the corner. And no, it's been a good ride. In 1994 was a special time.
Unbelievable. So, Stefan, if I could ask you to kind of go back in time a little bit and talk to me a little bit about, what was it like growing up and how did you even, become a hockey player?
I grew up outside of about 6 hours north of Montreal. The name of the town is Rouen-Noranda. It's a mining town. It's 40, maybe 40,000 people. We play hockey in the winter, we play baseball in the summer, and that's it. And I was fortunate to have my best friends are still Pierre Turgeon, play for the Islanders. We grew up together. We played hockey in the living room, kitchen, basement, street, park, everywhere. And we push each other. And also, we had Eric Desjardins, who played for the Flyers for many years, and Andre Racicot. He played for the Montreal Canadiens for a few years. He won the Stanley Cup in '93. So we were surrounded by I was surrounded by very good hockey players, and we push each other, and we played on the same team. And eventually, they split the talent, so we end up playing against each other over the years. And then I played my youth hockey in my hometown. And by the age of 15, I moved to Hull, Quebec, which Wayne Gretzky ended up buying the team. I played with Luc Robitaille and Sylvain Cote. I played with Jeremy Roenick. I played 4 years juniors, and that's what started to shape my career. And didn't know if I was going to become a professional athlete at the time, but I was surrounded by players who played in the National Hockey League. In training camp, they would come back in camp and share their stories. And that's when I decided to maybe I should put my more effort into it, and I need to put more seriousness in my work ethic. And in 1987, I was drafted by the Calgary Flames in the second round, and 25th overall. And I went to camp the very next September. I had a pretty decent camp. Came back to juniors, finished my 2 years in juniors, and size-wise, I was ready, but I don't think mentally I was ready to jump in the professional rank. So I played 1 year in Salt Lake City for the Golden Eagles, and I played there the whole year. Didn't get called up once, and I think that was benefit to my career. And then in 1991, I ended up making the team for the Calgary Flames, and after that I had a 13-year career. That sums it up pretty much. But they down the line, I played with some very talented players, and on each team that I played for, I played on 6 different teams, and I was fortunate I made the playoff every single year except my last year in Florida.
Wow, that's quite amazing. I know I had Theo Fleury on the show as well a while ago, and but I don't know, did you get a chance to play with him because he was in Calgary as well? At 88?
It was one of the best teammates I ever had, one of the best teammates I ever played with. Theo was a fantastic player on and off the ice, and I know he has a story, and he's got a very good life story to tell. Now it's on the positive side, and but back then I didn't see any sign of it that he struggled off the ice. So, but as a teammate, he was incredible. 1 month, I think I played 1 month with Theo Fleury and Doug Gilmour on the same line when Gary Roberts injured himself. So uh, I only have good stories about Theo, and that's how I started my career. I was on a very good team with the Calgary Flames.
That's amazing. And so being in that kind of like, I guess when you're starting out your career, and you mentioned that you weren't even sure if you were going to go pro, how serious to take it. At what point did that change? At what point were you like, oh my God, like I can really do it. I'm going to get drafted.
Um, Being surrounded by good players who's been there before and they come back, you know what? Being drafted, it's one thing, but to make the jump, it's another thing. That's why I keep telling people now, making the National Hockey League, it's the easiest part. But to stay in it every single day and to be consistent, it's the hardest part in my perspective because it was not easy. Being a pro, I was fortunate in Calgary. I was surrounded by Al McInnes and Doug Gilmour and Joe Newendike, Gary Roberts, Mike Vernon. We had a very good team, and Joel Otto was on the team. Um, Ronnie Stern was on the team, so I was surrounded by people who kept pushing because we were pushing to be first on the overall in that season. So I was surrounded by very good, talented player on and off the ice that really helped me. But even though it was hard for me to be consistent every single night, but we had thank God we had a very good team. That but I think I played 81 games that year, so I played pretty much the whole year. I was in a roster, and We lost in the first round against the Edmonton Oilers in Game 7. That's the last time the Oilers wanted to play a Stanley Cup in 1991. And but you know what? It's a process. It's like anything else for the kids. You go from the peewees rank, you go to bantam rank. You keep adjusting yourself. You think you're good enough, but then when they put you to a different level, it takes a while to adjust. It takes a while to adjust your game, but it's a process, and the process to me was pretty good, and I'm very grateful that I had a chance to be able to do so.
Amazing. And I do have a question coming in here, which I was actually writing a blog about, how, and this is perfect segue. Thank you, Evgenia. And so she's saying, people always say it's not like your kid is going to the NHL. And the question is, do you feel like that mindset holds kids back?
It
You
sounds
know,
like you. What's the question again?
so do you feel like the mindset of your kid is not, it's not like your kid is going to the NHL, like he's 8, like what are you worrying about? I was actually writing a little blog about it because I was reading an article where it says your kid's not going to the NHL at the age of 8, like calm down, kind of thing, right? Because parents get a little crazy at hockey, youth hockey especially, right? And I was saying, why not? How do you know?
Why not? It's a good question. It's why not? But where do we cross the line? Where do we back off as a parent? That our kid is they're dreaming about playing with Crosby and Ovechkin and Kreider and Panarin, but it's just when we all we talk about is he will make it to the NHL for 100%. That's when the problem I think occur. We have to let those kids be kids and let them dream. Let's let them talk amongst themselves. But it's when we, like I said, when we go through tournaments and arena to arena, my son will play in the NHL 100%. That's when I have a problem with. I would say let's have a good environment. Let's have fun with the process. Let those kids be kids, and we don't need to talk about how much money they've been making when they turn 22, 23. And it, they going my kid will save the family financial process. You see that in football and basketball in hockey also. Sometimes it's but I said let's don't cross the line. Let those kids be kids, and it will be a better journey because when they turn 15, 16, 17, when they play against much better players, a lot of those kids uh, they don't perform as much, and then they become a disappointment, and you see the kids getting depressed, the parents getting depressed. So at the age of 8, let let's give them a break and let them play and let's enjoy, and not only the kids, the parents also.
Yeah, and to your point, I almost feel like it's like separate the two, right? Your kid can dream big, right? And you can imagine you playing in the NHL, like like we all do as kids, right? We just going around saying, Dick left, Dick right, Matteau scores, right? And we
Yeah,
all pretend to be the pro players that we grow up watching, and but then the parents have to take a step back, and from the sidelines, kind of support the dream, but don't squander it, right? Don't be overbearing. Don't go crazy because it's not about you, it's about them.
absolutely. And I think the parents the kids need to be educated about the process, and I think that's why I like when personally I do some seminars. I talk to the kids, which I don't do enough, but also I like to talk to the parents, educate the kids because I have two kids who plays hockey, and educate the parents with the process because a lot of them they've never been in that elite environment. Being just a social game, it's okay, but when your son, your daughter becomes the elite player, it's a different stress and different pressure for the parents and for the kids. So that's why I like to educate the kids, the parents, and talk to them and try to explain them about the process and the journey that your kids will go through. And a lot of times it's a positive. If when the parents wants to listen, it's a positive for all of us to listen to someone who's been there before.
Yeah, absolutely. What about your parents? Did they support your ambition in hockey, or was there like, did they want you to
My
get a job?
they supported me the whole time. My mom and dad, they drove me to the arena every single morning, whether it's 5 o'clock practice, 6 o'clock practice, even though it was minus 35 outside, the car sometimes would not start, and we would have to boost the car, the battery to get it started. But I came to an environment was not always the ideal process. My dad was really hard on me, pushed me hard, and a lot of times he's seen the negative in each game that I played, even though I scored 2 or 3 goals in some of those games. So I kind of learned. I kind of as a kid, I thought it was really hard at times. I wanted to quit because the environment was like toxic a lot of times. And I ended up doing the same thing to my son when he started playing minor hockey. And the last maybe 9 to 10 years, I kind of changed that environment. But I learned it the hard way. And I know a lot of parents, when I do those seminars, I talk to those parents, I share my story that I came from a father who was really hard on me. And I did exactly the same thing with my own son. And that's when we start sharing the positive, the negative process that we did over the years. And that's when I think it helps when we communicate to each other.
Yeah, I mean, this is perfect because that's exactly why I started this podcast, right? Because when I just started coaching and my kids were tiny, right? My older one is 11 now, and I was pushing him so hard, and when when he was getting better and better and better, and then the better he got, the more I expected. In
Yeah.
my first couple of years of coaching, with 8-year-olds and 7-year-olds on the bench, I'm running around, I'm pretending to be an NHL coach, like my
That's what,
kids.
yeah.
I'm like, pulling the goalie in a Lions game. I'm like, going for the win all the time. And then ultimately, I had like this experience where my kid, we came home and he set me down at 7 and was crying and saying, "Dad, this is not working for me. You're yelling at me all the time."
Well, that's exactly what I did. I'm glad that you shared that with me, and that a lot of people are watching right now. Uh, we need to back off. Even though your kid's getting better and better, they still 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, and they have to be. You never know. It could work some days because sometimes you think your motivation speech before the game, the half an hour after the game, it doesn't help over the like it might help for 2 minutes. The kids will get burned out, and some of those kids will pushed away the passion they had. But I think it's important that we communicate. We talk to the parents and say, well, you can share some of those stories with them, but you don't have to pick every single negative things that your son did during the game. Because as an athlete, the elite athletes, we know what we did wrong in the game. And we don't need to be reminded every single time. It's such a fast game. You look at the New York Rangers play last night; they made mistakes. Carolina made mistakes, and mom and dad are not calling the plays. Hey, Kreider, you should have done that. And so it's a game of mistakes. But for the kids, to protect our kids, I think for the advice I would give to the parents, maybe we should not be even talking about the game after the game. Maybe the next morning you can have over breakfast. Would you like to talk about what happened yesterday? And your kid, your daughter, your son will talk about the good points and the bad points, and that's what could be more constructive for the kids and the parents.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what? This is like a theme that's kind of coming up because you, a lot of my guests on the show say the same thing. Where it's kind of like hindsight 2020, right? We do it, we get really into it, we get emotional, we get these, we get crazy, and the part that kind of is difficult is when it's amplified when you're also the coach, right? When
Yeah.
you're coaching your kids and when you kind of on the bench or you're working with them athletically and trying to develop them, and then you give it to them on the ice, then you get off and you give it to them in the car ride back
Oh, that
home.
was the worst. Yeah, that's a good point. I was coaching my daughter. I never had an issue coaching my daughter. Never had an issue. But my son was. I was coaching. I was in the moment, and all I've seen was, let's say, at number 23. That's the only number, and I did the only person I care for was 23. I didn't coach the rest of the team. I coached my son, and I was yelling, like yelling, punching him, like little tap, come on, get going, and just I was blindsided by only the number 23 on the ice. So in the name, and like you humiliate me, what the other parents gonna say about me? I'm coaching, and you're not doing what I'm telling you. So that was a little craziness. I regret those moments, but I've learned from those moments. And as a parent, I would say if I had to do it again, I would maybe help the coach in practice, the coaching staff, but I would not be behind the bench if my son was on the team. So I know it's hard to find a good coach, but there's a lot of passionate coaches, parents out there who could have done the same job, even a better job than I did when my son was growing up as a hockey player.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And I usually coach, with a friend of mine, and so my kid plays defense, and so we always try to make sure that he's running the defensive end of the bench.
Yeah,
So he's more, he kind of controls his ice time. He controls his kind of what happens on the ice, and then I stay on the other side with the forwards, and we kind of try to work the dynamic a little that way, just
yeah.
so I'm still coaching the team and trying to put everything in perspective. But I do like that dynamic of him having somebody else to look up to and being coached by because like you said, we're a little bit biased, right? What's okay for somebody else is
Oh
that
yeah,
okay.
that's we had different rules. I would say things to my son that I would never say to another kid on the bench. I would like that was craziness, little crazy at times. It was a lot of fun. Was not always negative. Was a lot of fun when things are going well. Like things
Right.
when we're winning, when he was scoring, I was so proud. But when things were not doing too good, I was just like, come on,
Right.
just like I focus on him too much, and I wish we had him on the podcast and share his own story because I thought that was the worst thing ever happened. His version would probably say, no, that was a good thing. My dad pushed me, and he became a professional hockey player later on because he pushed me and he did his best. But that's another story. Maybe we could do another podcast later with my
Absolutely.
son included and my daughter. That would be a good thing for also teaching the kids and the parents on their eyes the way they were brought up. So
Oh, that would be amazing. I'm definitely gonna text you to set that one up. I love that because
yeah,
again, I'm actually doing a little mini series with Shoni Hardy. Shoni is an Olympic basketball women's assistant coach. She coached in the Olympics twice, and she right now runs a program called Fear to Fierce or Winning Matters, where she talks. We had three athletes on, young athletes, 14 years old, 11 years old, different sports, and then we're gonna have three sets of parents on, and basically the whole idea is to explore what they hear versus what parents are saying and think their kids hear. So because it's so
that's
different,
yeah,
right? Because sometimes I'm talking to my kids and I think like, hey, I'm telling you exactly what to do, how to do it, but they hear something completely different.
absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I like that. There's just those. Uh, yeah, having my kids, that would be a good. I wished I could hear more what they had to say the way. But at the bottom line, I did my best. We're doing our best with what we know at the time. And can we do better as a parent? Of course, we can do better. Can we learn? Of course. And it's the process. Uh, my son is 28 years old. He's still playing right now for the Avalanche farm team. And my daughter retired a few years ago from college hockey. She played for the Buffalo Buttes. I don't know the name of the professional. She tried for 1 year, and she had a lot of fun playing hockey. She made a lot of friends over the years. My son's the same thing. The friendship goes around, goes past the borders, and they have friends from Russia and friends from anywhere around the world. So it's a good environment. The life of hockey players. It's a good environment. It's fun if it's in the right environment. If it's a positive one. So
Great. And so, two questions for you here. When did you introduce your kids to hockey? Like, what age did you get them on skates? And the second question is, you mentioned that your daughter you didn't have any problems with, but your son you did. Is it because having a daughter is different? Like you treat him different than a son? Because I have three boys, so I wouldn't know the difference.
yeah. Uh, my kids my I never pushed my daughter play hockey. She started a little bit late, 7 or 8, 9 years old, and I used to have a hockey school in my hometown. I would dress her as a hockey player, and I never pushed her. And she would sit on the bench, and I would ask her, anytime you're ready to get on the ice, just get on the ice. Uh, Eventually, she opened the door. She got on the ice. She was pretty good, and she was she could not do anything wrong. Everything she did, it was perfect. It was a celebration. She had the environment for her was so much fun. Uh, and my son he started the age of 5, 6, 7, and he was pretty good at a very early age, pretty much similar to my career growing up, and then we started moving him up to a different level. Even he was the youngest guy on the team. We kept pushing him up. That's another mistake I think I've made over the years. Uh, if I could go back, I would say maybe follow your friends, follow your school classmate, and just be the kid that because your career is going to, if the good player is going to go up, and no matter what. And so he kept playing, and we sent him to Saskatchewan for the beautiful program for the Notre Dame Hounds. They won the national championship for the midget AAA. Morgan Riley was on the team. Slater Kukuc was on the team, and then my son was selected to play for the U.S. national team. He played with Trouba, Vitrano, Seth Jones. So pretty much, it was a very good program. He had the chance to travel the world, and in that program, he played there for 2 years, and then he was selected in the first round by the New Jersey Devils. He played there as an 18-year-old a few games in that year, and his career just took off. And he's been a professional for 9 years now. So he's grinding it out. He works really hard to stay in the level that he's playing now, and he keeps having dreams to be a National Hockey League player on a regular basis. And he's 28, and he still dream about it. So I'm very proud of him.
Beautiful. And how did that feel when he got drafted by the Devils?
It's a little crazy. We were at the draft in Pittsburgh, and I got a chance to take, I don't know, to have your son drafted by any NHL team, it's a dream come true. Uh, Even by the Devils, a lot of people, when I took the family picture with the Devils hat, a lot of people said, "We're so proud for your son, for the family, but please remove that hat instantly." So Mr. Lamorello had a vision in him, and he trusted him, and the rest was history. Because it doesn't matter if I play for the Rangers, being against the Islanders or the Devils. It was my son. That's his journey. That's his life, and he played. He had a chance to play for a few games for the Devils. So that was a special time for him and the family.
That's amazing. No, that's a beautiful story. So, and I know you yourself happened to play for one of the most famous coaches, I guess, in the NHL, Mike Keenan, right? On numerous occasions in different teams. So I wanted to actually ask you a little bit about that, and if you can talk a little bit about if he had a different style in every team, or was it just, here's how he coached no matter where he went? What was that
He
like?
was. He coached me on 4 different teams, and that's a good point that you just said. He had a different style in every team. With the Chicago Blackhawks in 1992, that was insane intensity. But I got there. We lost to Pittsburgh in the Stanley Cup Finals. Even in the finals, so in the playoff, we won 11 straight games, and he was tough on everyone. Every game was a tough one, um, uh, but it worked. It worked, and then we end up losing in 4 straight in the Stanley Cup Finals against Pittsburgh, and the ups and downs. And then I got traded to the New York Rangers, and I saw a different side of Mike Keenan, because Mark Messier and Kevin Lowe and McTavish and all those leaders, I don't think they would have put up with the intensity on a regular base that Mike used to do. And I saw another side of him in that point. Then we won the Stanley Cup in '94. We all love each other. The family was perfect, and Mike was great. And then Mike went to St. Louis, and I followed him with the St. Louis Blues. I had a chance to play with Gretzky and Brett Hall, and Mike tried a tough love, with Gretzky and Brett Hall. And then we lost to the second round against the Red Wings on that Steve Eisenman second overtime, I think, goal over John Casey's shoulder. Uh, so Mike was a little more mellow, but tougher than the New York Rangers. And then I followed him in with the Florida Panthers. Um, and then that's when my career at that time, that's when I realized that I don't have too many months left or too many years left. And for over the years, I blamed Mike Keenan for my failure in my last year of my career. Then I realized later on that it was all on me, that I wasn't prepared physically to retire or to play that one season, and mentally also I needed more tools to go over being one of the oldest player on the team. And I blame Mike for my failure to realize it was, as an athlete, I wasn't prepared for that. And I made peace with Mike a few years ago. We're friends now, and but took a lot of years, a lot of not therapy, but a lot of self thoughts and self like reflection to realize that any athletes, it's too easy to blame a coach for your failure or for not performing. That's what I try to tell the kids at times. Just like, maybe you need to work a little bit harder. Maybe you need to step back and look what you cannot blame your teammates all the time. You cannot blame your environment all the time. At some point, you have to own what you can do. What you Sometimes you just have to. That's what I did over the years, and that's what I did with Mike Keenan. And it took. I'm in a better place now when I see Mike. Realize that I'm very fortunate to have one Stanley Cup ring with him and with the New York Rangers. And Mike he pushed me to the limit, but I don't think I would have become the player that at times that I became, because if Mike wasn't there. So I'm very grateful that I crossed paths with Mike Keenan.
That's amazing. And I love that, the point you just made about, how different of a style he had for each team, because I almost feel like that's the trait of a coach, right? If you're always coaching one way, then it's kind of about you.
Yeah,
It's about what you want to do, how you want people to see you. Like that's you, and everybody kind of has to fit your style or get out of the way, right?
yeah,
But when you're able to change and be malleable depending on who you have on that bench as a player, and maybe your assistant coaching staff, and depending on how much skill you have on that team,
absolutely.
yeah, I think that's a huge difference.
So the people don't realize why the coaches get fired after 3 or 4 years, and the one that stays on the same team for 10, 15 years, like to your point, is like they do adjust every 2 or 3. They have to reinvent themselves because the players come and go, and they have the different style. And the tough one, they are tough, but the younger players, they don't stay young forever. And after 3 or 4 years, coaches move teams and they try to adapt. They don't try to adapt. They just have one style, and I don't think that works anymore in the NHL. And that's why coaches, they get fired after 3 or 4 years. The one that doesn't adapt from the team that they have in front of them.
Yeah, it almost feels like as a general manager, right? You have to come in and be like, hey, this coach is not working anymore for this group. And if you keep in the
Absolutely.
group, then we need a different coach. Or we have to get a different group, right?
It's easier to fire a coach and fire 20 players. So, but the
Right.
coaches are so talented. Like you said, they surround themselves by great assistant coach, good system. But if they don't adapt over the years, they just change teams, and now they are. You get coaches who are coaching 5, 6, 7 different teams in the span of 15 years or so. So it's not because they're not a good coach; they are a great coach. That's why they keep being hired by the NHL teams. It's just that they don't adapt as much. That's what my 2 cents on that
Yeah,
philosophy.
no, great. And so, one question I have for you is, when you were coaching, what were some of the, I guess, some of the foundational principles you were teaching your team, and how far would you push them?
When I was an assistant coach with the in the Quebec Major, I was the third or fourth coach on the team, and I wasn't coaching the game. I was coaching what my strength was. It's the outside of the game, and that's what I think my strength was, to see a kid who was struggling. And remember, we're dealing with kids who've never been away from home, even though they're very talented. For the first time, they are away from home, and the first month is really hard. Christmas time is really hard, and I would spend more times talking about how are you doing? Can I help you? What's going on with outside your house school? And that's what my strength was. Like, I've been there before. I know you're struggling, you're not scoring. Let's go back to the fundamental of the game. And I was not a good skill coach. I was more of a mental coach, and um, that's what my strength was, and that's why we made as a coaching staff. You get your head coach. I never wanted to pretend to be. I never wanted to have that job. I was very content, very happy the way that I was talking to the kids, and I think some of those kids benefit from it, and I'm glad I was able to help.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, I think that having somebody like you on the bench who played the game at the highest levels, won the Stanley Cup, it just makes you feel, you know, different. It makes you feel calm. I think, especially when you have somebody like you mentoring
Yeah,
a player and saying, "Hey, like calm down, just play the game." And I love, that you mentioned, these kids leaving home for the first time and become joining these teams. I know I watched. I think Henrik Lundqvist has a special the way he was talking about that. Him and his brother left home at 14.
yeah.
Right? How old were you when you kind of had to move away and play?
I was 15 years old, turning 16 when it became a job. When I jumped in the Quebec Major Hockey League, I didn't play much. We had the best team in Quebec, in Canada, one year with Luc Robitaille was on the team, and we lost at the Memorial Finals in the uh, we had a such. I think we lost 10 games the whole year, and I was the young players who Pat Byrne was my coach, by the way, who passed away. Used to play. He used to coach the Devils in Boston and Montreal and Toronto. Another tough coach that I had, and then I had Alain Vigneault for 2 years. And hold on a second, my computer's acting out here.
Sure.
Can you still see me? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Okay. And then I had some Alain Vigneault for 2 years. So, well, I'm sorry, I got distracted. What was your question again?
Oh, sorry. We were talking about. Oof, I lost my train of thought too. No,
Yeah, but
yeah. Uh, we, we were talking about basically. Sorry, let me go back.
what time? Well, how old was I when I
Right.
left home?
Right.
So I
Yeah.
was 15, and when my son turned 15, he ended up going to the midget AAA in Saskatchewan. When my daughter turned 15, I sent her to Northwood in Lake Placid. So it worked. Like, it's one of those things that it worked for me, and it's not like I wasn't proud of the minor hockey. Uh, System that we had in Quebec is just like I didn't agree with their philosophy. So I kind of did the same thing with my kids. It was a decision. It's 15 years old, by the way. It's very young, but I think it was time for me to move away from my hometown, and my kids did exactly the same thing, and it's end up being a good thing for both of them.
Wow. And I think it's tough on the parents. I have a few friends who could have potentially been, playing in, at some minor teams, maybe even make the NHL, but they didn't because their parents wouldn't let them go. They wouldn't let them, like, they had opportunities to like play, on the West Coast, or move out of the East Coast, and the parents were just not ready for that.
But a lot of my friends who have kids, the NHL player, my friends, they would do the exact. They would push their kids to leave home at 14, 15, 16, because pretty much all of us have the same story. It worked for us. At some point, you cannot keep coaching your own kids. It's not like that. It's not that we don't love our kids. Obviously, we love our kids. We care for them. But sometimes it's better to find a place, the environment, the program. Usually, we send them to a very good program for them, and it worked pretty good. So I have no
That's
regret sending my kids away when they were 15 years old.
that's so important. I think that's such an important point that you just made. Because I think as a parent coach and myself and as a parent, right, we get attached and we're like, oh my god, my kid's 11. In 4 years, if he's progressing, he gets really good and he has an opportunity to play in a school somewhere, right? 5, 6, 7 hours away, you know, I feel like it's almost like I have to let them explore the opportunity, right?
Well, when you get to that point, because it's coming soon for you in a few years, and you'll know what's yours. Usually, the elite players, they're prepared. They know that's in their DNA. They'll tell you he's going to dictate where he wants to go, because the he's going to be surrounded by elite players if he's one of them, and he's going to tell you, he's going to share with you what that I would like to maybe. And as a family, you can make a better decision. But it's 15. They always can come back, but it's there's a lot of good programs out there, great programs, but not only hockey programs, but also a lot of good. My main thing was a good school program, and it's something that you cannot deny that hockey, the percentage of making a professional rank, it's very, very minimum, and your education is very important. So there's a lot of good school with good hockey programs, and there's a lot of options out there.
Yeah. And so I want to take a moment and take a step back about you were talking a little bit about your preparation, how hard you worked, and how hard your son works to stay at the elite level. And I want to ask you to talk a little bit about the grind and how much work it takes, because people see those videos of Crosby stick handling or Patrick Kane stick handling through the pucks, right? And they're like, oh my god, he makes it look so easy, but the amount of work that goes in the back end to get to that level is just unreal. So maybe you could share a little bit about the experience and what your son went through.
Well, all of us, the passionate players, the passionate kids, it doesn't matter if it's Stephen Curry in basketball. I like watching those videos. Football players, the same thing. It's how much effort you're going to put, how much effort you're willing to put without getting pushed by your own parents. Like if you have to wake up your kids in the morning and push them to perform, then maybe you'll have a little issue with. But the passionate kids is they're the one who set up their own alarm, and they are willing to practice hours and hours before practice and after practice, in between games, between practices. So I'm no exception. I kept on playing with. I had friends who my parents would have to try to find us where we were playing, because we kept playing from park to park, and we just wanted to find the best game ever in town. So I was fortunate to have good friends around that we kept pushing each other to be better, not to put. We didn't want to be an NHL player, but we just wanted to push ourselves and have fun with the journey. But the effort was there, the passion was there, and the talent was there, because we always played against older players at some point. Uh, so that's what I try to tell the parents: let your kids play, but if you have to push your kids too much, maybe the kid is not met at that point to become a hockey player or any sports.
Yeah, you're so right. I mean, when I was growing up, I didn't have access to the rink, right? So there's not a lot of ice, time available, and it was expensive. And so I played a lot of roller hockey. But I would go out with my friends at like 9 in the morning and stay out till 4 or 5 in the afternoon playing hockey all day. Literally, we would go to a grocery store and buy these. They used to have these little bottles of like juice for like a quarter or something like that. So we
Yeah,
get that, and that was it. That was our, replenishing our, nourishing our bodies. That was it. That's about it. And we would play like all day Saturday, all day Sunday, and then you had obviously school from Monday to Friday, so you maybe some evenings. I remember we used to drive out to a mall. They had a parking lot, so at night after the mall was closed, you could go in, drive into the parking lot, and the top was rubber, so it felt like you were rollerblading on ice. So you could slide and do all this stuff. So that's how you would do it. 11 o'clock at night, you're all playing hockey. So
we played everywhere, like you said. We played everywhere. We could find, like, the neighborhood was adapt to. It was the same kids from the same street, so we put our nets in the middle, so the parents would not be uh, mad if we were playing. Now, in our days now, the people are fast going. You don't barely see any kids playing the street anymore with nets in the middle of the street. Uh, but that was my generation. We played everywhere, every single places we can find a place to. And now the kids now they play their video games. They don't play as much outside, and but they we used to play 6 months out of the year, 7 months, and in the month of April, our ice surface would be they would close the rink, and then that's when we play baseball right after till the month of August. 1 week of hockey school in July, and that was it. So we separated the season of hockey and the season of baseball, and that's what you were sharing with you. You were sharing with me that your son started play basketball, and I would encourage any parents to get their kids to play different sports, and if they can block the season of hockey aside for a little bit for a few months, your kids will benefit from learning a different sports game, a different sports environment, and I think they would benefit from the game of hockey.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great thing. I think that I'm so excited to see them excited. They wake up in
Yeah,
the morning, they run into my room, and they're like, "Hey, Dad, can we play basketball today?"
yeah,
Yeah, because it's nice outside. The weather is getting into 70s. It's beautiful, and and sometimes they'll run in and be like, "Hey, we want to go to Sticks and Pucks today. We haven't, we want to go skating." But right
yeah,
now we're still in that spring season mode, so we have a couple more weeks, and then we have a tournament that we're attending, Lobster Fest out here in a few hours away from New York. So they're kind of, I think it's coming towards the tail end, and they're looking forward to just being on the beach and
yeah.
doing stuff outside rather than in a rink. And so you know as we're talking about it, how important do you think that is to have kids play multiple sports and being able to switch back and forth? I know you mentioned that you think it's a big asset, but sometimes it's hard, right? Sometimes kids, all they want to do is one thing over and over again. So how as parents can we like kind of push them into all these different directions?
It's a good point. I think the parents, because I coach AAA hockey also once in a while, and the parents feel if my kids doesn't play AAA hockey, they're gonna miss out. They're gonna fall behind in the ladder, in the chart, and everything because the other kids are playing throughout the pretty much the whole summer. And I think it's a mistake that we are making. The kids doesn't most of those kids, they're so young now. It takes a week or two to get back on the ice, to get back in full gear and be ready for their regular season. And I think it's a big mistake that uh, right now I know your kids are involved in AAA hockey. They have their 3 or 4 tournaments in the regular season, and as soon as the season's over, they we line up 3, 4, 5 tournaments, and some of those parents put their kids in 2, 3 different teams, so they end up playing not only in 3 other tournaments, they end up playing in 6, 7, 8 tournaments till the month of July. So that's a lot of hockey. That's a lot of pressure. They have to perform. I know they're on the ice, but they're at the end of the day, the kid. What's important is when they come back after school, when the school starts in the September, August, September, and their regular season team start. They are fresh. They're they're passionate about the upcoming season, new team. If they move up to a level, so they're not going to get burned out in the month of November, December. So I would say let's back off a little bit, back up a little bit, and just enjoy the month of the summer month, May, June, July, and let's have fun with another sports if you can.
Yeah, great point, and totally agree with you there. And I think one thing that I did want to talk to you about, and it's a little bit, I guess, switching gears a little here, but talking about dealing with frustration, because I think that it's something that parents struggle with, kids struggle with, right? I have kids on the bench now who, if they hit the post or miss the net, they come to the bench, you know,
Yeah.
throwing a stick or getting really mad because they made a mistake, right? But kind of flipping it around and teaching them that mistakes are okay. What would you recommend for parents and kids to do when you deal with that kind of frustration?
I was a crazy. I was one of them when I played out. I used to come on the bench crying and just what did I do? When I was younger, I never blamed a teammate, but I always blamed myself, and it carried on in my career because I was very hard on myself. Um, I was as a coach, as a kid, as a parent. I would say let's have fun with it. Like, let's show them videos of NHL players who mess up. Kako missed a big, missed the an empty net in game one, and all we heard for the next week is like the Rangers should be up 3-1. And Kako is a one of the best player in the national, like in the world. He's part of the elite player. He missed that empty net, and but that didn't stop him to come back stronger. Like he's playing his best hockey since he joined the New York Rangers. But those mistakes, I don't call that mistakes. Those he missed an empty net, and he kept on being positive. He was disappointed, but he kept being, because that's what you, when you hear the podcast or the video of those players. Michael Jordan is one of the most, or Kobe Bryant, one of the best videos you can watch and learn from those guys. They miss over and over and over, but you cannot allow yourself be negative, because if you are negative coming back to the bench, then that affect the player on your left and the person on your right, and the coaching staff. Now they have to babysit you. So I would say you might be disappointed, but keep it to yourself. Count the amount of holes you have in your skates. That takes maybe 10 seconds. And then, all right, just like a goalie, they go back and forth. And when they go back in their crease, they are focusing on the next shot. As a forward or defenseman, when you put your head up, focus on your next shift, and let's be positive what the outcome is going to be on the positive side. So those are, for the young players, it's a little bit hard, but you can build on it by keep programming yourself by being positive after a bad shift or a bad outcome on the ice.
Did you do anything before or after the game to kind of get yourself into mental state to deal with those frustrations and mistakes? Like after you kind of play a few seasons and you kind of learn yourself, right? You harden yourself. Is there anything that they can do in that I guess preparation and in their pregame rituals that they can set the mindset towards the game?
Well, you're as a kid, it's hard. You go to school during the day and you play on Wednesdays or Thursdays. It's hard. But a professional, that's all. That's all you do. And my preparation, the best games I play, I can recall that I was in practice. I would focus on their lineup. I would focus on the positive things. I would write down 3 or 4 things on a piece of paper. What I'm going to do in the game situation. I'm going to every time the puck went around the board, I would say to myself, I would write down a piece of paper, the puck will come out of the zone 100% of the time. I would not try to make a fancy play at the blue line. I'm going to have 5 or 6 hits a night. And those are the things when I played in the game, I would have a chance to hit the player. I would finish my check because I visualized it before, and I would have 5 shots on net. Even though I only average 1 or 2 a game, it's something that I'm going to stop at every rebound in front of the net, because it's instead of turning away from the net or not a chance to score a goal. So those are the things I can tell the kids to write it down. It's like a speech in front of a classroom. Visualize it, keep talking about it, and then when you won't be surprised once you're on the ice and those plays occur, because they will occur every single shift. And but if you prepare and don't wait for the games to start to prepare yourself. Prepare yourself before the game, and good things will happen to you.
Excellent. And you know, going on that trend, what about practice? How can we, what can we do in practice to prepare these kids for those games? Because, right, we always say practice the way you're going to play, right?
Yeah,
But sometimes that's not what they actually do. So, how do we get them into that mindset as well?
my the mistakes that I made over the years, like when I was myself, when I was on not in trouble, but when I would, because in the NHL you go from the first line to the fourth line, and being in the press box. When I was in trouble, meaning that I was on the fourth line or was out of the lineup, I would come to practice as mad as that. I would practice like it was a game. I would work as hard as possible, and then I would, as a miracle, I would go up in the ladder. I would play in the first 2 lines, and I would focus on it. But when I had 3 or 4 good games in a row, and I said I don't need to work as hard, I would have to, like, I can take this practice off instantly. I would put myself in trouble and go back to the ladder. So that's what Mike Keenan came to place. He kept teaching me to keep practicing the way you play, or even harder. Because in the game, you only some games you play 10 to 15 minutes, or some if you play on the fourth line, you'll play 6 minutes. So where do you get your ice time? It's in practice and warm up, or so you have to. It's good habits will get you a long way. It doesn't matter if you're a professional athlete. Good practice will make a much better game. So I believe in that today, much more now.
Yeah, beautiful. And I think again for those people who are watching, how important that is to get into the mindset before you even hit the ice, right? And just knowing that you gotta go harder in practice, and then it feels easier in the game, right? But then you can't stop, like you said, it has to be consistent.
It's hard to be consistent. It's hard to be consistent in practice, in games, at school, in life, with your relationship. It it goes up and down, and just but the I had the chance to play alongside with Adam Graves, and he had a 53 goal season that one year, 94. But he was always in the list. He would come. He would be the first guy on the ice. He would be shooting pucks as hard as possible. He would never warm up the goalie. I said, I need to practice on my own. I need to score goals, and but respectfully, never hit Richter in the face just because he wanted to score a goal in practice. But he practiced. He protected the puck, so he was a good inspiration for me to watch him play. So I had Michel Goulet over the years, an Hall of Famer. Practice with him, following him, watching him, the good habits that he would do. So there's a lot of good hockey players out there. You Everyone has their own style. As a player, try to copy someone, try to get close to someone on your team, an older player, an older friend that you can look up to, and don't be afraid to ask for advice to them.
Yeah, and to your point, I just want to say that I feel very fortunate that I get to coach with you and Adam Graves and meet all of you guys. I think you guys are absolutely amazing, and what you do for the game today is unbelievable, right? Sharing these stories and just coaching, getting out there with the kids and helping coaches get better, right? And I think I was at a seminar with Adam Graves talking to the coaches, one of the seminars for the junior Rangers coaches, and he was actually talking about the fact that you don't see the ball hockey or street hockey stuff in Canada anymore. What you were mentioning earlier, and so it would be great to see that kind of come back. That kind of come back, but not just in Canada, but also here in New York and in other places where kids are participating in the sport and getting involved. And so I just want to remind everybody to check out the Junior Rangers programming, because we do have some ball hockey um, opportunities right here at home, so you might enjoy it. And Stefan, I know we're coming up on the hour here, so I usually finish the show with a few questions to all my guests. So I'd like to do a little rapid fire with you. Here's the first one. What is your favorite quote or motto that you live by?
Don't let the bad games bother like affect you. Just go with the flow, just like this. There's always tomorrow. I don't know if it's a saying, but do your best and good things will happen.
Awesome. Question number two. Can you share three things that you would suggest that every parent does when raising an athlete?
Um, Three things I would say: have fun with it. Don't don't push your kids to be a professional athlete. Just push your kids to be a kid. Um, and enjoy your coffee while you're watching your kids, and just enjoy. Don't coach your kids from the stands, in the car, at home. Just let them be. So,
Beautiful. And the last one here is what motivates athletes?
what motivates athletes? Positive environment. Any athletes or any human being don't want to go through a black cloud every single morning or every single practice or game. They want to what motivate an athlete? It's result, but also a positive environment around themselves.
Wonderful. And speaking of that, do you feel that that sometimes being pushed a little bit beyond your limits gets you to the next level, but how you being pushed is really important.
Well, I know it's we all different. We
Yeah.
all different in every aspect, and we all have a different background. Some kids need to be pushed. Some athletes need to be pushed, and you have to identify as an adult which one cannot be pushed as much, and you cannot treat everyone the same. That's why it's not an easy job to be a head coach or even a parent. As a parent, you only have one to focus on, but as a coach, it's hard to focus on 20, 15 to 20 kids. So identify the one that you can push. But when you're crossing the line, that's what I have an issue with.
Yeah. Well, I hope that everybody who watched this podcast takes something away from us today. And Stefan obviously talked about a lot of really, really important things. So I'd love, hopefully we can get your kids on the show and have
That'd
another
be fun,
episode.
yeah.
Yeah, and hear about their experiences. So, but thank you, everybody. Please follow the show. Let us know what you think. If you have questions, send them over. We'll share them with Stefan and hopefully get you some answers there. But thank you again for coming on the show. Really appreciate it. I know we were trying to schedule this for a while. Finally got around to it. So absolutely great.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.